Hey guys, so the first video I want to get on this channel is going to be about how to define pelvic neutral, how to train yourself, and the progressions that we can actually go into through the Deadbug form. So Deadbug is what I'll get to and I'll show you, but initially what we're going to have you start with is just lay down on the floor, because a lot of people try to learn pelvic neutral while standing, and then it becomes a lot tougher because there's no tactile sense that you get a feel. Now for a lot of people, it's real common to have this arch in their back, and we call that a lordotic curve. And what we want to do is that we don't want that to happen because it causes a lot of the spinal erectors to stay tight all the time, and it actually weakens those abs. So what we want to start doing, and I teach most of my clients this the first couple of times that they come in and see me, but we just have them lay down on the floor, and what we have them do is just rotate that pelvis into the table. And what we want to do is we want to rotate it into the table. We want to hold for about 5 seconds, and then we're just going to kind of relax. Now if you're having a hard time learning to rotate that, it helps sometimes to arch initially, to over exaggerate it, and then pull even more into that table, and then really feel those abs fire, but we really want to focus on your back being flat the entire time. So feet should be flat on the floor. If you have a cool table like this, you can use that. But what we want to do is we want to make sure we hold that for about 10 seconds, and then just kind of relax. And now we're going to go into kind of progressions from there, but we want to do those. If you do these a couple times a day, you'll start seeing these start to become easier and easier, and you should start noticing them in even like the other exercises that you do, because we always want to be pelvic neutral, whether you're doing a squat or any upper body exercise. We don't want to walk around with that arch in your back. So we want to teach your body to slowly learn how to progress this into every single activity that you do, so your core and those abs are firing all the time, and your lower back doesn't have to fire, especially if you're seated all day. You don't want to put any extra stress on that. So from there, what your next progression would be to do is we're going to kind of go into a transition with some of your Deadbug, and all we're going to do is your Deadbug form is both feet and both hands up. We're not going to start there. So what we're going to start with is just your hands up, and what we want to do is making sure that your entire back stays flat the entire time. We want to keep it tight. We want to make sure you're still breathing through your abs. We want to make sure your stomach breathing, and we're not doing a bunch of this chest rise where the upper part of your back now comes off the table. We want to make sure that stays flat. We want to make sure your breathing comes through your abdomen. Both those hands are up, and maintaining that pressure on there. We just want to extend those arms over the top of your head. We're not going to have to go very far, and then we want to bring them back. But we want to make sure we maintain that pressure on the table the entire time. You should be able to breathe the whole time. The goal is not to be able to hold your breath and do this, but we want to progress just through that, maintaining that pressure and contact against the table, and then extending those arms nice and slow over the top. We're not going for speed, and then back on up. And we can do 5 to 10 of those. We're not looking to do a million reps on this, but it's all about control. Continue to breathe through your abdomen and do diaphragm breathing while those arms are moving. So once that's easier, obviously that first one, your feet are still flat on the table. Your next progression on it will be to lift those legs up, but your hands are going to be flat on the table. We don't want to move them together yet. The Deadbug progression continues to get a little bit tougher as we go. But initially what we want to do is we just want to bring those feet on up, keep them about, you want to keep knees a little bit more than 90 degrees and bring those knees in so they're tight. It'll help keep rotating that pelvis in. And what we want to do is just go back to those hands with those feet up now, and we're going to just raise those hands over the top of your head. Keeping that pressure there, we don't want to let that arch and have that back come off the table. So we want to maintain that pressure there. Maintain your abdominal breathing, and then you want to go into that extension over the top of your head while just holding this. Now if it's too hard to maintain stabilization here while your hands extend over your head, then just do your legs. Keep your hands down the table, and we'll just maintain this for about 30 seconds. Keep those abs tight while you continue to breathe through that abdomen. And we want to make sure that that's stable before we do anything else. One thing that you hear me say a lot is we want to stabilize first, and then we want to go into movement. If you can't stabilize, then we don't want to start adding movement to it, because if we can't stabilize when we're not weight bearing and trying to move in multiple planes, you're probably not going to be able to do it very well when you're now trying to move and add all this extra stuff when you can't stabilize initially. So we always want to learn to stabilize, and then we want to add movement to it. So this is what I give most of my clients as homework, is just to lay on the floor, pull that pelvis in, practice that abdominal breathing. Sometimes it helps just to rest your hands there. As they get better at it, raise those legs on up. This will make it more challenging. It will activate those lower abs more. Again, continue that abdominal breathing, and then you can add that overhead extension with those arms. Now, as that gets to be a little bit easier, what we want to do is from this position, again, start with our hands down on the table. But what we'll do is just slowly drop one foot, keeping that back flat, and then come back up. And then you're going to alternate down to the other side, and then you're going to come back up. Again, maintaining pressure. So if you can only go this far before your back wants to arch, just go that far. Our goal is to get to the table, but we don't have to start there. So we just want to move as far as we can. We'll maintain that control, then come on back, then go to the other side, come on back. So we want to start by alternating feet before we ever go to double feet, because that's just going to put more and more pressure on that core. And we care, again, more about stabilization than we care about how far you can move. Again, our goal is to get full movement and full range of motion, but initially we have to start where you can control it at. And then as we build up strength, we'll be able to do more and more. So from there, once you can do a good 10 on each leg with good control, then what you can start to do is now put your hands up. And again, I just start doing this. I just keep my hands up before I start trying to move them over my head. And we just go 1 foot, and we want to keep those arms straight up while going through those feet. So you're kind of just moving the feet of the dead bug at this point. And we want to do the same thing. Maintain that pressure on the table. Don't let that back arch on up. Keep your abdominal breathing through that diaphragm. Maintain that pressure. And you just do like 5 to 10. If you can only do 5 with good form, stop at 5. This is not about doing a million reps. Again, we want to make sure that they're just really, really good reps. So from there, what we want to do is we want to go from here, and as you're feeling stronger and stronger, we're going to go opposite arm to opposite leg. Now you can drop your heel initially, I was extending it, and then you can go there, and then you can go to here. Now the goal is for those legs in the opposite, the ones that aren't supposed to be moving, we want to keep them vertical up towards the ceiling. And we want to just extend, come back, extend, don't let the hand come forward, and then come back. And we just want to stabilize that. And you can start with 5, and then just take a break. If you're losing that pelvic tilt, and you're starting to rock forward, we don't want to do that. So I don't want more reps just to get through them. I want good reps. But those hands are going to be up, pelvis is going to be neutral, and we're going to drop 1 foot. As you get stronger and stronger, then you can extend that leg all the way out, while extending that arm all the way up, and then coming back. But again, only do that if, sorry, I'm trying to talk and do this all at the same time, and going back. So as long as you can do it and maintain that pressure on the table, awesome. If you can't, then we don't want to go as far. And we want to try to always keep those hands and feet vertical. If you do about 2 to 3 sets of those, like 10 reps, 1 to 2 times a day, you'll start noticing in a couple weeks that you can really start to extend and move farther and farther. But again, all of this becomes worthless if this starts to happen and there's this big space underneath your back. We're starting to reinforce something that we don't want to do. Our goal is to enforce this, where we maintain that pressure, we can maintain that core pressure. And this is going to be one thing that I will tell you in every exercise video that comes after this, is that every exercise video after this is I'm going to be like, all right, neutralize your pelvis first. This is going to be what teaches you to do it. If you have a hard time doing it here, you're going to have a really hard time doing it when you're vertical. So this is where we want to begin all the time. And this is a good homework exercise. It's also a really good like primer and like a primer core workout right before you're doing squats or other things where you really need to make sure your abs are engaged to protect your spine, so then you don't end up with back issues or other issues. But maintaining pelvic neutral is going to make it so everything else starts to align better, and it's going to start giving you better and better posture as well. Because the goal is to be able to sit like this with those shoulders back, not necessarily like this, but like this, nice and straight, nice and comfortable. But that pelvis shouldn't be here. We don't want to be arched forward. We want to be here, nice and neutral, that core engaged, and the more we train it here, the less you have to think about it outside of here. And that's what we want to get to. Hope that helps, guys. If you got any questions, shoot me an email, jason@jrunfitness.com. Leave a comment, or you guys can come find me on any social media at JRunFitness. Look forward to hearing from you.